on in to another episode of Getting Well with Terry and Friends, NHL Season Preview Show Edition. I'm Terry, Vito beside me, Ian bottom left, DJ bottom right, and we are ready to break down some Colorado Avalanche offseason. And we will just jump right into it here. And we'll start with additions and subtractions, looking at what the Avalanche did in the offseason. The first thing that stands out to me is goaltending. Obviously, Georgiev was brought in with a trade. Jonas Johansson brought back now as a free agent. Evan Rodriguez was just actually signed a couple days ago. So he will be joining the Avalanche. And then when you look at the players that are leaving, you have Burakovsky, Darcy Kemper, Jack Johnson, Ryan Murray, Nicholas Obkubel, Nico Sturm, and the top two, Roland McEwen, Hunter Miska, not as much impact players there, but the rest of the list, looking at it, I think the Avalanche downgraded a bit this offseason. I don't think it's going to be a huge drop-off. I'm not going to say that they're all of a sudden going to miss the playoffs or something, but I do think that they're taking a bit of a step backwards this year in some kind of form. But after the amazing season they had, it's kind of hard to better that anyways. But Vito, looking at the addition subtractions, what do you think here for the Avalanche?
Go to Ian.
Okay. Ian? No problem. Vito's working, and it's all good. Ian, what do you think, addition subtractions?
Well, it's obviously still going to be a team that's going to be contenders. There's no question about that. Now, obviously last year, you talk about subtractions, and obviously Nazem Kadri stands out like a sore thumb as someone that was obviously instrumental at playoff time. Great season overall for the Colorado Avalanche last year. Now we're going to see, obviously, him in Calgary, which was a great move. Obviously, the Flames getting him. Darcy Kemper gone. And look what you want about Darcy Kemper at the playoffs. He was kind of up and down. He had the eye injury, obviously, last year at playoff time. But, he's still certainly an above-average goalie, a very good goalie, obviously, for the in the NHL. And last year he was pretty solid overall. And now you look at this year in net, you've got Alexander Georgiev and Pavel Francouz at your disposal. There's some questions back there. Georgiev's someone that I think, when he gets behind a team that's got just really loaded up front, a terrific mobile blue line 1 through 6, that's going to help him, I think, in between the pipes for Colorado be better than maybe we saw from the New York Rangers. So that remains to be seen. As far as who they added, coming into the season, I like the Rodriguez signing, quite honestly, no question. Evan Rodriguez played well. I think there were times when he was really the one depth forward for the Penguins last year that was making things happen for them. So I like that they brought him in. It's a nice little addition. Brad Hunt, a depth defenseman for them as well. But definitely some changes. Burakovsky, you lose some offense, but they got enough. I don't think that's going to make or break them. Jack Johnson's just, best days are behind him. He's a 5th, 6th defenseman at this stage of his career. You can live without him. Murray never stays healthy. Ryan Murray, he's got talent, got ability to be good, but we just don't see him on the ice enough. Obey-Kubel is a good 4th-line type player. He'll be missed, but again, a replaceable part. So as far as I'm concerned with the Colorado Avalanche here, it's a situation where this is still going to be a clear Stanley Cup contender. Look, there was questions about Kemper doing the job last year. He came in and played well. Let's at least give Georgiev and Francouz the chance to do that, because look, they don't have to be guys that steal games for Colorado because they're loaded offensively. The blue line is so good. They spend little time in their own end because they're just not hemmed in their own end very often because they possess the puck so much. They have such a great skating, mobile blue line. So that helps the goalies in this situation, Georgiev and Francouz. Give them a chance to show what they can do. But no doubt Colorado, one of the best teams in the West and in the NHL again.
All right. Vito, what do you think? Additions, subtractions?
Sorry for that inconvenience. Apologies. And first of all, about Georgiev, I didn't hear first part of Ian what he said, but I don't know who's going to be a starter. Is Paul Francouz a starter? I think Georgiev also is a good goalie. I think last season was not very good for him. But overall, I think he can easily be a starter, So I think he's a great goalie. Well, with the, it's also hard to play for this Rangers team. Shishchorkin is just like made some unbelievable season, and that's not possible for every goalie. Overall, we saw how much shots were put on the net for Igor. It was like Rangers were like last in expected goals the whole season. So of course it was pretty hard for Giorgio to come in as a backup on some back-to-back games, and then there was a fatigue and so on. So I think he's a definitely a great piece, I think, for Avalanche. And as Ian mentioned when I heard Avalanche, they just possess the puck so much, that goalie just has to be decent. You don't need to have a trophy winner goalie in the net, Carey Price or Vasilevsky. You can win the games with Kemper. And I wouldn't say that Kemper just made the saves which he needed to make the last season. So any goalie can play there. So why they should keep the Kemper? They can just take like Georgiev and Francouz. I think they're going to be fine with that. Jonas Johansson. All right. Ivan Rodriguez, yes, from Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, why not? I mean, I don't really know what for how much cap space he takes, but I mean, for a second or third liner, which he's going to be perhaps, right? I think like in the depth, he's decent, a penalty kill for the penalty kills. I think he's good, so it's always decent to have a guy like that. I think what they're losing, well, obviously Andre Burakovsky, yes, that guy had a great season with Avalanche. I mean, and for him, he played in Washington Capitals before, and he was not so good there. And well, he always kind of looked like a decent player. He just couldn't find the net, and couldn't find the right role. And when he moved to Avalanche, I mean, there is also the captain of the team is Gabriel Landeskog. He's also Swedish. So, Burakovsky is Swedish. So I think that also kind of, helps each other, So that's why he got better there. And I think that's going to be a loss. Kemper, well, I think Georgiev can be as good as Kemper if you give him enough playing time and he gets hot. I think he can play very well. And the rest of the guys kind of a depth guys. So, well, Avalanche is still a loaded team. So I don't see those are subtractions. So they're losing also Kadri, right? But that's not here.
Yes, I totally forgot him. I'm sorry. How can I possibly do that?
Pretty big omission there, Terry. Come on. It's only Nazem Kadri. It's only with a guy that was spectacular in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I know. I was multitasking when I was doing this earlier, so I totally forgot about a huge piece. But yes.
Well, when you add this one, then even more looks like they're losing even more, So yeah, Burakovsky, Kadri is definitely something that they're gonna miss. The rest of the guys kind of a depth guys. I know. For example, I think even Rodriguez is a better player than Obe Kubel. Let's say.
All right, DJ. Additions, subtractions for the Avalanche.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, the Kadri omission. Thank you for adding. I was just sitting there the whole time waiting for you to get to me. I was like, wait a minute. Kadri.
We're missing something here.
I mean, honestly, you look at that list, and I mean, first off, I'm probably a bit lower on Georgiev than the rest, just out of I don't know. He's a huge question mark, and I think that when you have that big question mark in the right situation, it can go very, very right with his skill, but it can also go wrong. I kind of have Pavel Francouz as like the guy that I think will see more starts, but that's pretty unconfirmed. I just think, for purposes of this show and betting and like fantasy, we're right now, you're asking about hockey being back. It's like we're in fantasy season. I much rather take a guy like Pavel Francouz at his ADP in drafts and any single league rather than bet on Georgiev just happening to get more starts, because I don't know. I think it's a little bit thin to assume. All the additions other than that, I think, are pretty useless except for Rodriguez, who is probably a fine third line scorer, but who really gets the biggest boost, and I think is going to be I would say at least top 5 most fantasy relevant player that goes largely drafted in the later rounds is going to be Arturi Lehkonen. I think he gets the biggest boost from the subtraction, especially of a guy like Kadri. When Kadri was out in the playoffs, Lehkonen was on the first power play. He was a net front guy, and he does have good rates overall in his career. So I think that's the guy you want to get. I have him projected out. I have it up for 27 goals, around that range. And I think if you find him on the books, you're going to find him closer to like the 15 range. And I would slam that over. I think that's one of my favorite bets going into the season if you can find it. And like, I just think that he's going to get a massive role. He's going to mix in with McKinnon more, while you have Landeskog and Rantanen on one line with maybe Erod at best case scenario for Erod. You're going to have Lehkonen kind of attached to the hip of McKinnon, and that's what I'm expecting, and that's why I'm really optimistic about him. This team is they're the favorite. My favorite team going into this year, regardless of everything. I think that they're kind of unbettable at their price right now, because what's the point? But I definitely think this is a team that's going to be right back in the cup mix when you have two of the top maybe 15 defensemen and definitely number one, as well as a up and comer in Bowen Byram. It doesn't really matter if your goalie is borderline replaceable level. I think you're going to be fine. And that we saw that last year. I think Kemper's a good bit better than Georgiev and probably Francouz, but not a lot. And when he was banged up, it didn't even matter. Like, his eye injury should have affected that team a lot more than it did. They still won the cup. So I would put this team as probably my favorite team in the entire league still. And I think that the addition by subtraction isn't probably the best term, but I think there's pieces on this team that are getting completely overlooked in the markets that just are going to get massive role increases. And Lehkonen is probably the poster child of that. If you're drafting in best puck, like I am, going to get 150 teams, Lehkonen's going pretty much in the last round, to the second to last round. I'm absolutely jamming him in.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll get to a possible lineup here in a bit. So I'll be interested to see what you think of the lineup that I put together here shortly. But before we get to that, we're going to look at the prospects and the upcoming free agents for Colorado. There's actually news out today. It's perfect timing that we're having the show, that Nathan McKinnon is nearing a extension. It sounds like it's going to be double digits. And it sounds like the agent was asked if he'll be the highest paid player in the league. And there was no comment about that. I don't know if he's going to hit McDavid level, but it does sound like McKinnon extension 10 plus million is coming on the way. So maybe they don't have to worry about that as much with McKinnon there. JT Compher, Rodriguez, Cogliano, Darren Helm, RFAs, Newhook, and Bowen Byram. Maybe they'll be looking towards those guys next. And then some depth in Johnson, Sedlak, and England. I'm not sure what they'll do with an aging Eric Johnson. Looking at prospects, from what I hear, Colorado fans are really high in Justice Annunen, who is their top goaltending prospect. And then they have other forwards, Martin Katt and Shane Bowers, Oscar Allison, Ben Myers. So even though they're a pretty good team, they still have some prospects on the way. But looking at it, obviously Nathan McKinnon is the biggest name there in free agents, but they may not have to worry about that too much longer. We will go to Ian next. What do you think? Prospects and upcoming free agents.
Colorado's another one of those teams where you look at it, a team that for the last couple of years, look, they've been pushing to win a Stanley Cup, make no mistake about it. The Colorado Avalanche, their prospect pool is not great, but it hasn't been completely depleted either yet at this stage. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, they're going to be year in and year out now for the next 3-5 years. They're going to be trading away first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round picks, prospects to contend every year. So there's only one direction that this prospect pool is going, and it's on the way down. There's no question about that. But, they still have some interesting pieces here. Justus Annunen, you remember, we saw a little bit of him last year for the Colorado Avalanche, someone that they think could, in time, be a goalie of the future for them. We'll have to wait and see. But they've got Sampo Ranta from Finland, who's got, a pretty good type of puck hounding forward that they like, that's got a good offensive upside. They're happy about what they've got there in him as well. There's definitely some talent here. Oscar Allison, as you mentioned, Ben Myers, Martin Kaut, right winger, who's got the ability to really be a versatile forward for the Avalanche moving forward. Shane Bowers, of course, a center, and of course you can't have too many of them as well. Set depth down the middle. We always talk about it every year. It's very important. So still some decent pieces, no question about that. But, when you look at the overall makeup, and I think Ben Myers, when you look at him in particular, he's close. He's close. This is a guy that's been in the Minnesota with the Golden Gophers. He's captain there. He's definitely someone that, look, when you say goodbye to a guy like Nazem Kadri in the offseason, and you've got a guy that's knocking on the door in the NHL in Ben Myers, who can actually be, you got him listed as left wing, Terry, but he can play both positions, wing and center. So he's definitely someone that could take that center ice spot down the road in the future here for the Colorado Avalanche. So it's nice to have that. Is their prospect pool top 5 like Buffalo or Columbus or Minnesota? Absolutely not close, but they're not like horrible at the end of the food chain either, like Philly or Washington, who have completely destroyed their prospect. Pittsburgh as well. You can throw them in there. Very weak prospect pools. Colorado's not there. They're not that bad yet, but give them 2-3 years, they probably will have one of the weakest prospect pools in the NHL. Why? Because they're contending for Stanley Cups. And when you're doing that, you're trading away those draft picks. You're trading away those prospects at the deadline. As far as free agents go, the big news is Nathan MacKinnon's going to get signed long-term imminently, hopefully before the start of the season. So we're probably going to be able to take MacKinnon off the free agent list maybe very soon. JT Compher is obviously going to be a high priority considering his ability to step up in the lineup and play well when someone got hurt and be that great two-way center with a little upside offensively as well. Evan Rodriguez just signed in the offseason this year on a 1-year deal. Cogliano and Helm, good foot soldiers, great fourth line contributors here for Colorado. But is there going to be enough, wiggle room with the cap to bring them back? You'd like to. Those have been useful, good players for them, especially at playoff time last year. But is there going to be enough room to fit them in, Cogliano and Helm, even if you'd like to have them back? That remains to be seen. Newhook's an important person to keep an eye on here in free agency next year, even though he's a restricted free agent. There's someone that could be here long term. You wonder about Eric Johnson, even though he's been great, because last year I thought he played very steady in the playoffs for them. Great year. And by the way, he's also been one of the best follows on social media all off season long, because his adventures with the Stanley Cup and his partying antics have been very well documented in video form online throughout the summer. And Eric Johnson's some of the shit from his Twitter and his Instagram, absolutely hilarious. But, you'd like to bring him back. But again, you've got a guy in his 30s now, in a situation where, you got so many other priorities. Are you going to be able to bring a guy like Eric Johnson back? And then you got Bowen Byram, who is absolutely a necessity that you get something done with him. This guy is incredible already. He's just a baby when it comes to the NHL, and he's only going to get better. The fleet foot skating, the ability to see the ice well, make great passes, have great offensive ability, and be such a good, solid defenseman already as well, considering just how young he is. I thought his defensive game in his own zone, it improved tenfold as he got more games under his belt with the Avalanche last year. So extremely impressive from him. You got to get a deal done there. So it's going to be a huge offseason for Joe Sakic. There's going to be a lot of things he's going to need to get done.
For sure. Vito, I think you have to go. What do you think here upcoming free
I'll be
agents?
back. I will just need to get food delivery because I arrived. But overall, MacKinnon is signed, and Evan Rodriguez, obviously, for 1 year, as always, to have the best performance for a new coming guy. It makes sense. He's not a top G in the league, so everything is understandable. And Bowen Byram definitely looks like the biggest guy who they would like to look at and sign, because the guy is good. I mean, same like Makar, great skating. Just maybe the guy, someone starts to play better in the early age, and someone gets better, 27, 28, 25. So there's a bright future for the kid, So least perhaps. Darren Helm is also old, Eric Johnson is old, so those are old guys. Perhaps one gets signed. Bowen Byram only one, I guess. And Alex Newhook was not bad in Central last season. And let's see how much money he will cost. And that's it.
All right. DJ, what do you think about the Avalanche prospects and upcoming free agents?
I'll keep it pretty quick. I mean, I think if you get anything useful out of any of those 5 guys, you're happy. I think if any of those 5 guys, literally any of them contribute more than 12 minutes of ice time within the next 3 years and are useful in that capacity, you're going to be really happy, because I don't think any of them have shown me enough to think like there's much more than borderline NHLer. I'm tough to impress with prospects. Honestly, I'm very low on those players that I don't think are clearly going to make the cut. So I think that you're just hopeful that one of them gets there. And I'm sorry for any Avs fans listening. Yes, every team, every fan overinflates their own prospects. So maybe you think there's something there. I hope you're right. Martin Kaut was the guy that I think a lot of people in fantasy circles thought that he could get there, and he just can't. So he's done. I think a Noonan is pretty much useless. So Ben Myers and Shane Bowers, for if either of these guys could maybe make any sort of a NHL stint, we'll find out. And they might need it, because a lot of depth is just going to have to go. There is no choice. They have to get McKinnon signed to a huge contract. Eric Johnson is going to be a casualty, $6 million. There's no way they can even begin to try to afford him. And he's, I would say, a fringe third pairing defenseman at this point, making way too much money. So he's gone. Byram's got to come back. I guarantee it's going to be a bridge deal, 2 years, try to get something done and hopefully kick that can down the road. And then Cogliano is probably going to retire. Erod, he's a replacement level scoring third, fourth liner, so who cares? Comfer is the one guy I think that's useful. The rest are, I don't know, pretty much nothing. I mean, I think Newhook, you're hopeful, could be at least borderline useful. But again, like my threshold for we need to prioritize this player is very high. And I think Comfer barely makes the cut. So he could end up being a casualty as well. But you don't need it when you're a team like Colorado that runs 2 lines for 20 minutes a night and dominates all night with those 2 lines. So you need to just piece together another 20 minutes of total ice time with 6 forwards that aren't abysmal. And I think you can do that in this modern NHL. So I'm not that concerned about them at all with that. I just think that I would not be optimistic that college season is going to end and the Avalanche get a huge boost. I just think that they're going to be really good, and they have the forwards to get it done already, and they don't need to worry about the rest.
All right. Next up, we'll take a look at the possible lineup. I put this together, so it could be crazy. We'll see here. But looking at the possible lineup for the Avalanche, obviously, I think Georgiev, Francouz could be interchangeable. So maybe Francouz is a starter, Georgiev the backup. I'm not high on Georgiev, so if I was coach, I'd be probably putting Francouz, pencil him in as a starter to start out with. Jonas Johansson has actually played well with Colorado in his former stint, but he's still definitely number 3 on that list. Looking at the defense, basically based on what DJ just said, maybe you move Eric Johnson down to the 3rd, Josh Manson up here. Bowen Byram is on the left side. Maybe you move him up and put him on the right side or something. But looking at the Colorado defense, pretty good. Obviously, the top 6 is really good for the Avalanche. Center depth, though, may be a bit of a question. Obviously, losing Kadri is a huge piece. But center depth, there is a question here. Let's say McKinnon gets injured. All of a sudden, you're pretty weak down the middle. But the Avalanche will still be able to score goals. They'll be okay with injuries, but if injuries happen, they still have a lot of depth. But I think this team is going to be more of an over team this year. I think we're going to see more goals against. Yeah, that's basically my opinion. No current injured players, so completely healthy. DJ, we'll go to you first this time. What do you think of the lineup I put together, and what changes would you make if you were coach?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think this is more of your hero line. Like if they're losing in a game, they might go to this, but I don't think they're going to start here. I just think that they are going to allow Landeskog, Rantanen, and I probably Comfer, and then McKinnon with Nurtushkin and Lehkonen is probably what I think they're going to end up doing, just because I really think they like the idea of letting McKinnon fire as much as possible. And I think they learned in the playoffs that having Rantanen and Landeskog tied together was just more important than allowing both. Like, I think you want to spread the wealth personally. And I think that's what they're going to do. Best way to put it. I think O'Connor, Erod, and Newhook, probably third line would be my overall prediction. And then fourth line it's just going to be a mixture. I don't think they have a hard, fast fourth line, really. Why do I feel like there's a player missing that I'm just not thinking of? Nah, not really. Okay. Defense-wise, again, that doesn't really matter to me at all because they're going to have 3 defensemen that play between 20 and 28 minutes a night, and those guys are going to mix in. So Makar with Taves and Byram, it's going to be more of a spider web than a hard, fast. These are our 3 pairs. Those guys are going to see the majority of minutes, and then Manson's going to be next in line, and then Johnson's going to be next, and then there's going to be just a third, a 6th guy that gets 8 to 10 minutes a night. I mean, that's just how they roll it. So, yeah, I mean, you can move them however you want. It doesn't matter. I personally like Brad Hunt as a player. I think he's going to start the AHL, but I think if any of the more offensively gifted defensemen get hurt, he'll mix in more because I think he is a very, very underrated offensive defenseman that just isn't good defensively. So, but I think it fits well for this team because they don't need to put him out there in those minutes. Like they have such a unbelievable, I mean, the wealth of defense is just ridiculous. It's just unmatched in the NHL. So I think he actually might end up being the guy that you find in the 6 hole just because of how gifted he is offensively, that they can really cater his minutes correctly. But you could, it's then again, who comes out then? Gerard, John, it's really hard to see. But I think he'll mix in if an injury comes in. Man, honestly, like how stupid good is this defense? Now I'm just realizing, like, when's Gerard going to play? Yeah, this is stupid. Like they're unbeatable on the point. Like it's not even close. So I think you can put them any way you want. I just think that we're going to see Makar, Taves, 25 to 30 minutes, Byram, Gerard probably in that 18 to 20 range, and then Manson and Johnson kind of mixing in and covering the penalty kill as much as possible. But that lineup that you have there, pretty close other than, like I said, I mean, well, you changed it around a whole bunch. But yeah, I think that the top 6 is to be a little different.
Yeah, basically you can change it all, and I'm sure that the lineup that's not the lineup that starts in opening night very well may not be the lineup that's there 2 weeks later.
I think that a lot of people are not understanding how good Arturi Lehkonen is. I think that's really, I think people just for some reason just can't justify putting him with McKinnon because they think like, oh, you can't do that. Like, no, like I think Lehkonen is a lot better. He was really good on Montreal. They seemingly I think there was something up there because as soon as he got traded, it was like Lehkonen's back. But I'll let Ian go. I think Lehkonen is going to be tethered to McKinnon, and that's why I am just really high on him going into the year.
All right. Ian, what do you think? Possible lineup?
Yeah, the lineup is absolutely. I like Arturi Lehkonen. I always have. Who was taking his props last year when he was with Colorado? I thought it was a great fit for him there. Get away from Montreal, get with a loaded team around him, and he thrived in it. And look, that top 6 is great. And I love the fact that the Colorado Avalanche got the shit done with Big Val Nichushkin, who was just absolutely outstanding. I mean, you talk about a guy that just exploded onto the scene and finally realized a lot of the high ceiling and potential people thought he had going back to the Dallas Stars days. Well, he finally did. He was a force. He was a beast in the playoffs for Colorado, Val Nichushkin. Great to see him back again. Great to see that they got that done. Look, they're terrific. The top 6 is as good or better than anybody in this league. In the bottom 6, they've got enough there. I think Alex Newhook's going to have a better season. I think there's tons of offensive potential untapped right now in Alex Newhook, and I think you could see that from him this year. Evan Rodriguez is going to help. Logan O'Connor's got so much more to give. So I think they'll be fine when it's all said and done, with the bottom 6 forward group as well. And of course, they've got, as I mentioned, Ben Myers waiting in the wings for them moving forward. So keep an eye on that. moving forward, they might be able to see some of these AHL guys, including like a Myers, creep into the lineup and be big time. And it's a great point DJ made about, say, Brad Hunt, who we know is defensively a little bit of a liability, but he's got good offensive instincts, good offensive upside, above average shot, good ability to make things happen offensively. Well, you can thrive in this system because they weren't so much. People look at it, and there were the games last year where Colorado's out shooting teams 38-18, 40-20, and people think, wow, what a defensive juggernaut they've turned into. Well, no, it's just they have the puck all the time. All right. And that's going to keep the shot count down for the other team. It's not like this is a team littered with players that provide great defensive fundamentals and principles on a nightly basis. This is just, well, guess what? Nobody from a team standpoint, forwards 1 through 12, defensemen 1 through 6 can skate like we can. We can win every loose puck battle. We can just, keep the puck all night because you don't have the overall team speed that we do to catch us and get the puck back from us once we get it. That's their way of playing defense. It is. It's just hogging the puck. They've got the incredible speed with the blue line, the mobility, the dexterity. You cannot possess the puck usually when you play the Colorado Avalanche anywhere close to the amount they do. And that's their way of playing defense. So Brad Hunt can step in here in this situation. That's why people that are maybe below average defenders on the blue line, you can mask those on a team like Colorado because their speed overall means they get the pucks, they keep the pucks, and it's very difficult for the other team to get them.
Yeah, for sure. It's frustrating as a Wild fan to play against this team. This is one of the most frustrating teams to play against for sure. Vito, what do you think here about the possible lineup for the Avalanche?
Well, yeah, I think, even Rodriguez maybe gets in the fourth line. I think he maybe gets a third line. I don't know actually instead of who. Logan O'Connor can't play center. I think he also can play center. I don't remember. But okay, maybe Helm lower. But top six looks very good, and yeah, as DJ Mitchell mentioned, obviously the three top guys will not play all together, I think. Like Landeskog definitely is going to play with someone else, and McKinnon also with someone else. Landeskog, I know he also can play center, but he looks like better on the wing lately, right? I think last year's. So I guess he stays on the wing. Andrew Cogliano is also, they good. It's a great lineup again. I mean, okay, they're missing Nazem Kadri, obviously, but they have also some new players like even Rodriguez, so should be okay for them. I mean, when you have McKinnon, Rantanen, and you have like Landeskog on your lineup on the top three, I mean, then you're going to get goals, So again, the bottom two lines just need to skate there, keep the puck out of the zone and put as much pressure as possible on an opposition. So I think that's a perfect lineup there. Evan Rodriguez can definitely chip in something while grinding, So they have an amazing third line, I think. So this looks very good, yeah. And on the defense, again, we have obviously Makar and very balanced defensemen. I mean, Samuel Girard, amazing. Bowen Byram, amazing. Devon Taves was also great. And then we have Makar. Well, Eric Johnson is only old, but he's just there. He's a great guy in the locker room, I believe, So he's always there. Well, he's just there and he helps. I mean, and yeah, again, great defense. I mean, with Makar, I mean, it just looks amazing. And with the goalies, I think, maybe DJ Mitchell is hard on Georgiev. But I don't like Paul Francouz so much. I don't think he can be a starter. But let's see. Let's see how it's going to happen. Because, I think the first game is going to show that pretty much, So we're going to see that. Hard to judge, None of them, obviously Francouz played better last year. But, I mean, his team won the Stanley Cup, so it's understandable. Well, let's see what happens this year. But, yeah, lineup obviously looks good.
Yeah, I think Georgiev, it's more of just like it's a roller coaster. Like one night he's going to have a shutout on 35 stops, and then the next night he's going to give up 7 goals, and you're going to be like, what the heck happened? Like it's just if he finds it, it's going to be really, really cool to watch. If he doesn't find it, I think he's just going to take the back seat. And I don't know what they start with. I think this is a really good spot to keep an eye on what the coach is saying in preseason, see if we get any news, and then look for bets that way. But I kind of have them projected even split right now, and I think that's probably what they want to do. I can't imagine Johansson or Noonan see much of all. They're just not NHL quality goalies. But if they get in, I mean, they're definitely not fantasy relevant. But I think in like a DFS circles, just keep an eye on it, because if they do find their way in a lineup at min salary, it's going to be a good night to hammer them, because this defense is so good. And the last thing on Georgiev is just he's going from, it's not like he's coming from the Sabres over to Colorado. He's coming from the Rangers, who were one of the better defensive teams, and he still looked terrible. So yeah, I think this is a better team overall. It might help him, but I don't understand how a goalie could be that bad with such a good team and just flip the switch. But maybe a new place, maybe actually getting some consistency rather than sitting behind Shesterkin and just being very, very on the back burner might help him. That's what you're hoping if you're a fan of the Avalanche and you're hoping to find a quality starter, which isn't probably Pablo Francouz either. Like, I don't think he's there either. So it's like, you're praying this team is just good enough to weather that storm. That's kind of my thought. I don't want to sound like I hate the guy. Like, he's draftable.
Bobrovsky also,
honestly,
has good.
He might be Bobrovsky light. Like, that's a good way to put it. He's just a lighter version of Bobrovsky. And it's like, if it comes together though, it really could be really cool to see this guy rebound. But if it doesn't, I worry that he's just gonna, like, that's why I'm drafting Pablo Francouz. And I know you guys probably aren't degenerates like me drafting. I'm on like my 85th fantasy team right now in best ball, but it's like 40 picks after an ADP right now between these goalies. Georgiev's going way, way earlier. I actually was just in a draft when we started, and just watching Georgiev go off the board like 40 picks early, it's like, why? What? Give me a reason why it's that big of a discrepancy. I just can't see it.
I could see an even split, 50-50. What do you think, Ian?
Francouz will get the first, I think, shot at it. He'd have to be really bad in training camp and in the preseason, like really, really struggling, I think, for Jared Bednar not to go back to Francouz at least as the first option. It's better to dance with the devil you know than the devil you don't, that old saying. And you don't know Georgiev quite as well. And, he had some good, he wasn't always bad with the Rangers. He had some incredible games, but he had a lot of bad games too. And a lot of games where it's just saves that you should be making, you're not. So there's a lot of inconsistencies that in Alexander Georgiev. And I think for that reason, it's probably going to be an uphill battle, for him to get the starting nod opening night over Pavel Francouz. But the moment Francouz goes into a tailspin, which could happen at some point, then Georgiev's probably going to get his shot. So this is going to be like a 1A, 1B type goaltending deal, I think, in Colorado. You're going to see both guys get the net a decent amount of time.
Or injury, because Francouz is injury prone. But
yes.
We'll look at the last 5 years for the Avalanche and finish off with their futures as well. So looking at it, first round exit 2017, 2018, 3 second round exits in a row. And then finally last year, they won the Stanley Cup. Looking at their point total this year, 111.5. That is down 7.5 points there from last year. Minus 4,000 to make the playoffs, plus 1,500 not to make the playoffs. Minus 160 to win the division. So you can't even bet them to win the division. To win the conference, plus 170. And to win the Stanley Cup, plus 380. They are the Stanley Cup favorites. As I said, you obviously can't bet this team to win to make the playoffs. That's minus 4,000. If you think they miss the playoffs, even me as a hardcore Wild fan that would just love to see the Avalanche miss the playoffs, I don't see how that happens unless literally the entire team gets injured. Like, it would have to be drastic, horrible injuries for this team to miss the playoffs. So there's no value there. Obviously, to win the division, minus 160, no value with that. To win the conference, plus 170. It's plus money, so that's good. The Avalanche probably do win the division, or probably do win the conference. But plus 170 on a future, it's totally up to each individual. 111.5. I don't know. I have questions with this team's center depth and with goaltending. So for me personally, I would look maybe towards the under, but it's not something I'm overly excited to bet. Probably not something I will bet, but if I had to make a bet, I'd probably go with under 111. I could see them finishing with like 107 to 110 type deal. Vito, futures last 5 years for the Avalanche. What do you think?
Yeah, well, point total perhaps. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't like to bet on these hard Jewish teams. I mean, they're top team, and NHL is so different every year. Anything can happen, and you never know before the season. So to make the not playoffs is just stupid bet. Of course, you're not betting that. To make the playoffs, of course, you're not betting that. So to win the division, you're not betting that. Minus 160. I don't know who is betting that. I mean, there is teams which still can make an unbelievable season, like Blues. I don't know, the same Wild, or Predators. I don't know. Maybe Predators come alive with the new Niederreiter and everyone else. So who knows what's happened. So to win the division, minus 160, I don't think there's a value. To win a conference, plus 117. Well, yeah, as Terry said, perhaps they can win the conference, but I think there is also teams which can win from West the conference. I mean, let's not forget we have Oilers with a new goalie, so those guys are going to go hard, especially in regular season. So I can see them actually maybe winning the conference if they play well. To win the cup, plus 380. I guess that you can sprinkle that. I mean, back to back, and they win. I mean, they can. So, but I mean, they pretty much dominated last year in playoffs. Every team they played, more or less, 4-0. Two series they won 4-0. That's a big statement. So that just shows how much better they were. So I can see them maybe winning the cup again. It's possible. So I think there you can maybe bet something if you are a fan of Colorado.
All right, DJ, futures for the Avalanche.
I'm going to keep this real quick. If you bet any of this stuff, you're a sociopath, because if you're going to lock up your money for like 9 months on a plus 380, you just like you got to find a new financial advisor who can advise you to not make really stupid bets for no good reason. These are completely unbettable lines. I see absolutely no reason to even consider any of them. It's just too like the time value of money, like inflation could just beat you on this. Like that's a joke, but like seriously, these are stupid bets. These are not worth taking. Do the simple math and realize what you're saying when you say this team to win the cup at 380, and realize that percentage is pretty absurd. Even if you told me and guaranteed me them in the playoffs, which is basically what the books are saying, playoffs are so random that plus 380 is just ridiculous to think a team's going to piece it together for 4 rounds. Total fade on all these lines. I have them right around the 119 to 122 mark for points. I think it's high by my projection. So I think 111 is probably right on the nose. And again, I'm not going to lock up my money on a coin flip of a bet, in my opinion, which just don't lock your money up that long. Just like have more fun with your life. Like live on the edge. Enjoy life. Don't bet these.
Hey, totally fair. There's definitely a lot of other teams that have much better odds. There's
exactly.
Much better
like
value out there.
have fun. Like take a stance on a team. Don't go out of your way to be like, oh, Colorado's really good. Like obviously they're really good, but they're going to make the playoffs. You're not betting that at minus 4,000. So like other than that, like how much fun are you really having in this world if you're betting minus 160 to win the division? Like none. Zero fun. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to have a beer with you. Just get out of here. I'm also going to sign off. I have someone from work that wants to call, so I'm going to get back to my real job. Yeah, if you are interested in drafting fantasy teams in the biggest fantasy contest, reach out to me on Twitter. 10,000 to first place, $10 entry, underdog. I know it's not in Ontario yet. It's like everywhere else. I even found out it is in Quebec. So it's in like every other province. And it's not overseas. Sorry, Vito, but it's in like every other province in Canada, like most states at this point. So if you check in on it there, I'm just going to say one last thing. I'm going to sign off, but there's a massive edge in this contest. If you have any understanding of hockey, if you have any understanding how to draft a good team in this structure and this format, you can definitely beat the rake and you can definitely make money. So reach out to me, follow me. I've posted more content for this contest that is going to have 5,000 people in it than probably anyone's posted for football that has like 50 or 500,000. So let me know. And I will be on a betcast for college football tonight if anyone wants to watch me talk about college football. But I'm gonna head out.
Thanks for coming, DJ.
See you, DJ. Right,
Ian?
though.
Yeah. What do you think about the futures here for the Avalanche?
Yeah, he's right about certainly it's okay to bet, obviously, season with futures. We all do. But the point he made, I think, specifically was, bet futures where you think there's market inefficiencies. Okay, the market's very efficient on Colorado. Okay, they know they're great. They know they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. I agree with him in saying this is not the team you want to be betting futures with because, there's no value on overs. There's no value on anything pro Colorado. You've got to find reasons to bet them under or nothing. You can't bet them over 111.5. Can't do it off a Stanley Cup championship. Can't do it. Playoffs, forget it. I mean, no one's going to lay minus 4,000 in their lifetime. Minus 160 to win a division. Obviously, they can win this division, but you're not getting value there. To win the conference and win the Stanley Cup's not even a great price. And I always get concerned about the team that won last year. It's not easy to repeat. So, you got to either make a case for the unders or in some of these situations, or you leave it alone. And for me, it's clearly you leave it alone. I mean, it's obviously a team that is going to be excellent again. There's questions about whether they're going to go for the gusto in the regular season or pace themselves after winning the Cup last year. So, it's very, very easy for me to really pass on everything futures-wise with Colorado. Specifically this team, it's not a team I'm looking to bet futures with.
All right. If you saw me going crazy there in the background, it is a sports. There is a game on. My best bet on the show earlier today, Bo Bichette over 1.5 bases, and he just got a double.
Okay. Thanks for the show, guys.
There you go. Yeah, great stuff, Vito. Yep.
And,
thanks for coming, guys. Tomorrow is the Dallas Stars.
Yes.
Can't miss them.
It'll be Nashville Predators, and then Saturday, Minnesota Wild. I'm so excited. Can't wait. The Wild will finally be here. But thanks, everyone, for watching. Smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow everyone in the chat, and we'll see you again. Have a good one, guys.